Hello and welcome back to Brilliant But Lazy. I'm Alan.
I'm Josh. Welcome back.
Yes.
It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. It's been a crazy 2 months because I opened up OBS to record this, and the last thing we covered on here was Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Oh my gosh.
Which was the end of May.
And I want to forget about that movie as much as possible. So thanks for bringing it back up.
I'm
OBS.
Sorry. We're gonna time travel back and do that again. It's been a crazy summer for me. I moved, and then we recorded an episode that kind of got caught up in some things going on in the world, and we decided to hold off on releasing it until some things were made clear. I'm sure everyone out there knows by now that there's a writer and actor strike happening in Hollywood, and there were some conversations behind the scenes here at not only Brilliant But Lazy, but also Victims and Villains about whether or not we should release content covering struck companies. And we were waiting on some clarification from the unions on what is and isn't allowed. And around the time we made the decision to hold this episode, the clarifications came out, and then we decided that we were going to release this episode. It was just a matter of getting it out there. And I had some health things that I was dealing with around the same time too. So that played into the reason that you're now hearing our review of Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yeah. A lot of things. Not to say we weren't respecting the writer's strike either. That was obviously going on before and throughout the summer. Unfortunately, it's damn near September, and that's still going.
Yeah.
The actor strike is still going. We just wanted to make sure, not to say we're like actors or anything like that, but there was some questions on like how to like promote a movie, and is that helping the actors, or is that helping the studios, or is that, bad taste? And so we just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. And then Alan had some stuff going on, I had some stuff going on, so we're back, baby.
We're back.
And we're finally able to release our comments on that Mission Impossible movie that sadly just got, the worst placement in the retrospectively. Now we can look back, and deciding to release that 1 week before Barbenheimer was the dumbest decision I think anybody's made in the recent past, because Mission Impossible in my mind is a great movie, and it could have done a lot better.
Yeah.
And I think Barbenheimer just destroyed it.
If I'm remembering correctly, I think we talked about like what's it going to look like when it's kicked off of the IMAX screens in a week.
Yeah.
And boy, I thought I had a bad weekend, Barbenheimer weekend, but Tom Cruise probably had one, maybe not as bad, but close to it. Yeah.
Barbie and Oppenheimer are still making money.
Yeah.
So.
Gran Turismo just kicked out Barbie from the #1 spot. So
yeah,
it's a weird world we live in.
Already made well over $1 billion. So
yeah,
they're the most profitable global and domestic movie Warner Brothers has ever made. Barbie.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Yeah.
And then Nolan, WB's golden boy that went away, is approaching $950 for Oppenheimer, an R-rated 3-hour half black and white history movie. That's amazing. That's a feat in itself.
I saw Oppenheimer. I have not seen Barbie yet. So.
Oh, I've seen it twice. You need to see it. It's
worth
it. Speaking of, we've seen a lot of movies over the last couple months, and we are going to talk about them. We have an event coming up on September 15th. Where we're doing a 24-hour marathon for awareness, and we have a spot on the evening of September 15th, and we're going to speed around all the movies we've seen in the last 2 months and kind of catch up on all those. That's the plan, right?
Yes, it'll be 8 p.m. Eastern on the Victims and Villains YouTube channel. So if you already subscribe to us on YouTube, You'll be able to find that live stream there. It's Friday, the September 6th, 15th.
15th, yep.
On YouTube, and we'll be sharing that to socials as well. So stay tuned for that.
What's the point of this 24-hour marathon?
We are raising money for Victims and Villains, the nonprofit that promotes mental health and suicide prevention through pop culture.
That's right. It's going to be a fun night. We literally have 24 hours of content, not just from me and Alan. It's going to be a whole. We got musicians, we've got gamers, we've got a whole cosplayers, we've got board games, we've got paintings. It's literally, I think it's like 2 p.m. to 2 p.m. for the 15th to the 16th. So it's gonna be a hell of a good time.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast. So that'll be our next episode. So join us for that. That may not release on the this third Saturday, but we'll get it out as soon as possible. It'll be on our YouTube channel for the third Saturday, our normal schedule. Hopefully now we'll be back to our normal schedule for Brilliant But Lazy, but we couldn't be brilliant but lazy if we didn't take 2 months off. Like it's in the title. We're brilliant, but we're maybe a little bit lazy. So exactly. Without further ado, we're going to jump into our review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning that we recorded the weekend it came out back in the beginning of July. So keep that in mind. If we're talking about Barbenheimer like it's in the future, it was. And I was not on my normal computer setup, but I'm moving into my new place. I still got boxes that I'm unpacking. My walls are still barren, but we're getting there, and we're going to be back into the swing of things here soon. And then next month we'll be back in the New York groove when we're in New York for Comic-Con. So
that's right.
We'll actually have a Brilliant But Lazy that we'll be able to record in person together. So
I know, I'm so stoked.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. A lot of exciting things happening here, not only at Brilliant But Lazy, but also Victims and Villains as a whole. So without further ado, here's our review of Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. Hey everyone, welcome to Brilliant But Lazy. I'm Alan.
I'm Josh. What's up, man?
Life's been crazy. I think last time we talked, I was surrounded by boxes.
Mm-hmm.
I am now surrounded by boxes in my new location.
Mm-hmm.
And my to-be office keeps flooding. So
fun.
I haven't been able to set up yet. So I'm here in my kitchen with my arcade cabinet behind me.
Mm-hmm.
Temporary setup until we can get everything resolved here, but It's been good. How have you been?
Good. I had a busy week. I was down in Kansas City for the week. And I had to be down there for work for a 4-day work trip. And I was kind of sad because I got advanced screening tickets to Talk to Me, which is this upcoming A24 indie horror film that I really wanted to see, but it was only in Omaha on Monday, so I couldn't see that. And then I saw that Mission Impossible 7 Dead Reckoning was going to have a screening in Kansas City on Monday night. And I was like, yes, but then it was at the same time as this work dinner. And I'm like, dang it. But then I noticed that it was every night this week. They just did the entire week. So I found out when we were having the work dinner on Tuesday night, which was like 6 to 8. And then I found the next IMAX screening, which was at 10. And then I got out of that at 1:30 in the morning, came back to the hotel, slept for a couple hours, and went back to work the next day. So, yeah.
I had an interesting week when it came to watching stuff too. We didn't have internet for the first few days that we were here at the new place. But I'm a adamant collector of physical media. And a few years ago on Black Friday, I picked up the 1 through 5 Mission Impossible Blu-ray set. So I had to dig through boxes to find this. But I was like, you wanted to do this episode.
I did.
And I wanted to watch all these films because I had nothing else to do, nothing else to watch. So I was like, I have them. We just did Mission Impossible 1 on my other show. You have to watch this podcast. So I skipped that one, but jumped right into 2 through Fallout. And in the last week, I have watched every Mission Impossible movie.
Wow.
Yes.
And you have, I forgot to ask you, so I knew you were going to do that. Have you previously seen all of those, or has it just been a while, or what?
The only one I had seen before before this year was Ghost Protocol.
Oh, wow.
I had went to see that in IMAX to see the Dark Knight Rises preview that they had beforehand. And I enjoyed it. I was like, this is fun. I would see more of these in theaters, and then I never did.
So up until this week, you've never seen 2 or 3 or any of the other past Ghost Protocol?
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, I'd only seen Ghost Protocol, and then when we did Mission Impossible 1 for my other show, I watched that on a VHS tape from a Blockbuster.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean, that's the perfect way to watch the first Mission Impossible because it's a trip. So
it is a trip. So do you want to just do like a quick recap of the previous films leading up to this, since you did this epic binge? I feel like we need to give some time to that, or do you just want to jump straight into the new one?
We can talk a little bit about the series as a whole if you want. So you obviously have liked these films for a while now.
Oh yeah, for sure. I love Mission Impossible. I love how it's evolved over the years. There was this time where it used to be the even films were the ones where he had long hair, and I noticed that for a while. So it was like short hair in MI1, and then longer hair in MI2, and then you got longer hair in Ghost Protocol again. And yeah, I've enjoyed where this film series started as just kind of a modern reboot, one-off from the series, to being this just over-the-top, ridiculous action sequel in part 2 that, everybody universally was like, this is the John Wooest of all John Woo films. And then, it gets kind of reinvented with who's the Star Trek guy, and
J.J. Abrams.
J.J. Abrams reboots it in MI3 with his signature red rabbit's foot or whatever. It's whatever the thing is. You don't really know what it is, and that's kind of what he did in so many properties.
The mystery box.
Yeah, that's his signature thing. And I remember at one point I was so annoyed with that. Like at the end of it, when he's like, you gonna let me know what it is, and Lawrence Fishburne's like, stay on and I'll tell you. And I'm like, no, screw you. Just tell me what it is. But yeah, and then it's just kind of it's become more stunt heavy in the later films. And I mean, when you think of spy sagas, you think of this and Bond, really. And Bond has its ups and downs too, and granted it has a bigger legacy of this, but it's still a pretty awesome legacy for the span of the current Mission Impossible franchise.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and like the craziest thing about this series to me is that it's based on a TV show.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to think, are there any TV shows today that, or even from the 90s, that would have their own film franchise spinoff like this? Because like the first one came out in 96. So by the time like nowadays, like if you were to reboot a 90s TV series and make a film series out of it, it would be the same amount of time between the first film and the Mission Impossible series from before. So Can you think of any show that would qualify for a franchise like this today?
I mean, the only other one that I could think of that was slightly successful that's already had a couple films were the 21 Jump Street films. That we did get 2 of those, and that was based on a show. But if you're asking what shows do I think could be turned into a franchise like this, I mean, I don't know. I feel like TV has changed so much to kind of emulate just longer movies that they wouldn't do this, but it's still an incredible feat.
Yeah. Looking at 90s shows, like I'm surprised we don't have the Mission Impossible style franchise for Power Rangers. Like,
yeah,
like I feel like you could go big with that, and they've tried recently, and it just failed. So I'm curious to see what they do with that here soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Give me one second. I gotta find a cord here. My headphones are about to die.
Cut this out in post.
Yeah, give me a second.
You're good.
Where are you at? This will work. Hopefully this will work. I've never had to use my headphones with something plugged into it, but we'll see if this works. Bring that closer and pray this works. All right, we'll see if this works.
Okay. All right. So one of my big takeaways from this binge of the films that I did was the movies definitely evolve with each director. Like you have who did the first one? I'm blanking. I know it's a big name.
Who did it? Is it Brian De Palma?
Brian De Palma. So you have Brian De Palma do the first one, and then John Woo, and then J.J. Abrams comes on. And then the franchise kind of sticks to the J.J. Abrams style for a while. Like Brad Bird comes in and does his thing with it. But then Christopher McQuarrie comes in, and he's done all of them since Rogue Nation. Is that correct?
Yep.
I like that the series evolves and then hits its stride and sticks with it. And I think J.J. Abrams really got the franchise going in the right direction with 3. I really enjoy 4. And I like what Christopher McQuarrie has done to a point as well. But it's nice to see a franchise that for a while there, it's like, okay, different directors are coming in and giving it its own take. And then what I didn't like about the last, like between Rogue Nation and
Fallout,
Dead Reckoning, it is that it's the same style. There's not much changing it up, and it works for this franchise, but I kind of wish they would keep going with different directors and just change it up each time. But Tom Cruise made a friend, so they're going to keep going with the same guy.
Sure, but I do. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I think it's changed for the better, though. I mean, one was this nostalgic, film, and 2 was this over the top, super serious action film that was just not. It was just too serious for its own good. It had cool stunts, but it was just too serious for its own good. 3 brought some action and had Philip Seymour Hoffman was an intimidating villain for sure, but it also brought this little it had some comedy in it. It had some fun things in it. Like one of my favorite parts of that film is when he escapes the federal building and puts the radio on "We Are Family" while he's running out of the building. And I thought that was great. I thought, and then we've had a little more comedy ever since. But with McQuarrie, I feel like he's been focusing, I wonder how much I imagine you'd want to be friends with Tom, because otherwise I'm sure he has a lot of pressure on whoever he works with, and especially with these films, as much as they've been stunt heavy, like Bond has always been more like kind of gadget heavy, and the Mission Impossible films have been stunt heavy. It seems like he works well with Tom, and probably gives him a long leash, and I mean, it's worked for the films. I still rank Fallout as my number one film, because I feel like that was just an excellent film. But yeah, I've liked where it's gone, and I feel like there has been some consistency in the quality of the last three films, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I enjoy his stuff, but I don't. I think Fallout's high on my list. I wouldn't put it as my number one. So, do we want to rank these before we get into Dead Reckoning?
Let me hear your ranking. Let's do it.
All right, we're starting at the bottom.
Sure.
Mission Impossible 2.
Okay.
I think that's the fair consensus with a lot of people. For me, I just reviewed it on Letterboxd, and my review was so many birds. It's fine. It's just it doesn't hit for me like the other films do. The style, like, it is very John Woo stylized, and it's just not one that I'm rushing to watch again. After that, probably gonna go Rogue Nation.
Okay.
Because there's some fun stuff in there, like the introduction of Rebecca Ferguson's character is a lot of fun. But like, and I feel like this might be my fault, because I watched Rogue Nation and Fallout like back to back, like same night, so they kind of blur together for me a little bit. But I liked Fallout more. Like, I enjoyed the Henry Cavill-ness, so I'm going to rank that at number 4.
Don't jump. You're going to lose me here. I'm typing them up as you go.
All right. So, yeah, that's the next one up will be Fallout. So, 2, Rogue Nation, Fallout.
Okay. Wow.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. Dead Reckoning is after Rogue Nation.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And we'll get into why here in a bit. So then Fallout.
Mm-hmm.
Then the original Mission Impossible. Because there's a lot of fun spy stuff in there.
Mm-hmm.
For me, Ghost Protocol's number 2, because that's the only one of these I've seen in IMAX. And that was a great viewing experience. I love the Michael Giacchino score because he does a great job with it. And then number 1 for me is Mission Impossible 3.
Wow. That is quite the list.
Between Philip Seymour Hoffman's villain and the J.J. Abrams take on it, I'm a big pre-Star Wars J.J. Abrams fan. The other DVD that I pulled out to watch when I didn't have internet was Lost. I didn't get to it in time because I got internet. It's like, I can watch whatever I want. But yeah, I that's been high on my list, and I like JJ's style, and the editing was very fast in that one, and it worked. That's my ranking.
Okay. My ranking's quite different. I put Rogue Nation as my. It's funny, we swapped our last ones. My Rogue Nation is at the bottom of the list for me. Mission Impossible 2 is just above it. I know it's a lot of nostalgia, but I feel like they took some leaps with that film. I think a lot of people didn't think that Mission Impossible was going to be a franchise. It was going to be a one and done, reboot, a salute to the TV show, and then they come back with, hey, no, actually we can continue doing this. And It falters a lot, but it has the awesome Limp Bizkit song, and there's some things that I appreciate. I really appreciated. I think this started the Tom craziness with this film because you had the knife scene, and a lot of people still think that knife scene is CGI when it comes that close to his eyeball, and it is not CGI. And Tom Cruise wanted it to be real. So they had to jerry rig this thing up to get that knife that close to his eyeball in the final fight scene. And I think things just kind of went on from there. That plus his rock climbing thing in the beginning, you had the heist scene in the first one, but I feel like Mission Impossible 2 kind of started the whole Tom Cruise stunt thing. After that, it's Ghost Protocol. I like Ghost Protocol, but that's where I rank it. I rank MI3 on top of that. Big fan of MI3. It came out the same year that Alias ended, and that was JJ's on TV screen spy saga, and I really love that show. MI1 is next, and then it's a tie for top place with Dead Reckoning and Fallout. I feel like Fallout was gorgeous in so many ways. It had excellent chase scenes. Tom Cruise broke his ankle, and they kept the shot in the film. It had this excellent bathroom fight with Henry Cavill. The loading up. It was great. It made the villain of Rogue Nation better, because I just didn't think he was that great of a villain in Rogue Nation, but then he was that much more formidable in Fallout, and that made me appreciate it more. And then we'll get into Dead Reckoning, but I loved Fallout. I feel like Fallout is the Skyfall, and of course it's because they're similar names, but the Skyfall of the Mission Impossible franchise. So yeah.
Okay. Well, I think we've tiptoed around it long enough. We want to talk about some Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Yeah, let's do it. Part 1.
Yeah,
spoiler free at the top.
Spoiler free. Before we get too into it, I'm curious, since you had preview screenings, how full were your theaters?
Not I went to the last one of the night, so it wasn't very full. It was maybe 20 people, 30 people in that IMAX. But they had 5 other screenings that day, so
okay.
And other versions of it and other shows. So I was surprised, but then again, it was a 10 o'clock on a Tuesday night. So, yeah.
I went Friday night at like 7 o'clock, and the theater was packed.
Okay.
I was a little too far up in the theater to view it comfortably. Like if something was happening on the left side of the screen, I had to like actually turn my head.
Oh, shit.
But it was reclining, so it wasn't too bad. But yeah, that was the most packed I've seen a theater in a while.
Yeah, I got IMAX tickets for this because a lot of it's filmed in IMAX, and I had seen the stunt preview for the cliff jump in IMAX, and I was like, I need to see the rest of the movie in IMAX if they filmed it like that. But I wonder if people knew that it was releasing that early, because I didn't realize until Sunday night that they were releasing on Monday and then playing it through the week. And I guess maybe they just felt like they had to because of Barbieheimer next week. Like, it's a weird place to be. Even if this film has legs, they're losing premium screens in a week. So
yeah,
I feel like it's a terrible spot to release this film, but I don't know.
So what was the official release date then? Did they move it up at the last second, or did they just do preview screenings?
No, I think the official release date was Tuesday.
Oh, okay.
So they did move it up. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think about it losing all those premium screens in a week because of Oppenheimer.
Barbie and Oppenheimer. There was a 3-way push for premium screens.
Yeah. Well, I know Barbie is not going to be an IMAX or 4DX or Screen X, but Oppenheimer I think is definitely IMAX. So I think Mission Impossible will keep the 4DX and the Screen X screens for a while, because I think Oppenheimer is just like, no, go see it in IMAX. That's the only way we're releasing it. Or
I
like
could have swore I saw something that at least AMC theaters were keeping 4 o'clock slots open for Barbie on Dolby Atmos and Dolby Prime.
Oh, Dolby. Okay.
So
yeah,
those
I don't have
premium
those.
screens. You
Yeah.
don't? Okay.
No, I do have an IMAX near me now, so I will be driving 40 minutes to see Oppenheimer in IMAX next week.
Yeah, same here. We can't wait.
Yeah, it was nice seeing the theater full, and like keep hearing people talk about like this is the movie that's going to save the box office this summer, because everything else is just like between The Flash and Indiana Jones, like it hasn't been a great summer at the box office. So
yeah, maybe. I mean, can Tom Cruise do it 2 summers in a row? We'll see. Because he definitely saved it last summer with Top Gun 2. So
yeah. All right. So my general thoughts on Dead Reckoning. I have to keep looking at the cup to remember the name. I thought it was fine. It was long, and there were parts of it I'm like, okay, can we move on already? Like the pacing was my biggest issue with this. Like my wife asked me when I got home, how was the movie? And I was like, you know me, I never do this, but I went to the bathroom like halfway through. Like I got up, I was like, I need a break. Like
snap.
Yeah. So the pacing for me was the biggest issue. And I'll get into some details on that in a bit when we get into spoilers. But beyond that, I thought I wish I had seen this in IMAX, because I'm sure that cliff jump scene that's in the trailers looks fantastic. I like that they brought back / made up a villain for this one to tie it back to the original film. Like it does tie back to the original, right?
No.
Or is it before the original?
Yeah, it's the flashback stuff is not flashing back to anything we've ever seen before.
Okay, I thought it was flashing back to the first film. So okay, I like that it's a villain that has some history with Ethan. Then, and I think there's some very cool set pieces in here. That the chase scenes are great. I like the train stuff. I think Haley Atwell is a great addition to the team in this. I felt like the film could have used Simon Pegg a little bit better. And I was surprised at how long it took for the Mission Impossible logo to come up, because you're like 30 minutes into the movie. Like, okay, this is going to be a long trip. So those are my general thoughts. Do with it what you will.
I've heard a division. I've heard some people agree with you that the pacing was off and this was a long movie. I didn't feel that way at all. I felt like it was constantly driving towards the next thing, and the action and the set pieces were continuing, that forward motion. So I thought I didn't feel the length. And when it was over, I wanted more, and I was like, man, we got to that really quick. So I might feel the length on second viewing. I'm going to go see it again on Sunday. But in regards to without getting into the plot or anything, I liked that there's multiple people after Ethan and his team, and they just couldn't breathe. Like there was good guys after him, there was bad guys after him, there was gray guys after him, the middle of the road guys. There was this thief character that was making things hard for him. I liked all those angles. I had one of the reviewers that I follow compared Haley Atwell's character to Phoebe Bridgers' character in Indy 5, and that they were both unlikable and just a constant annoyance in the film. I didn't think that at all. I thought Haley Atwell was fun. I thought she was definitely like an obstacle, but I wasn't like annoyed by her or felt that she was like over the top mean or vindictive to the main character like Indy 5. So
Yeah, there were. I definitely saw comparisons to Indy 5 when I saw this. Like
mm-hmm.
the whole train sequence, like reminded me of the train sequence that we just saw in Indiana Jones. To the point where I'm like, is that just the same bridge? Like, because I know Paramount is connected with both of these because they had something to do with at least distribution, or they get some money for Indiana Jones because their logo's still in it. But it just felt very familiar. And I if you're gonna do a train scene, you're gonna there's certain things that have to happen in a train fight, which happened in both. So,
well, I told you that there were scenes in here that felt like they were part Indy 5, part Fast X. There's a car chase scene in here that felt like it was part Indy 5 and that they were in a super tiny vehicle going around town, part Fast X and that they were on the exact same street and steps as a scene in Fast X, to the point where I was like, was Rome just like handing out discounts to production studios to film on these steps at this time? And then part Black Widow because it had a very similar vehicle chasing them through this scene, but it was better than all three of those films. I don't know if it was just the editing or the CGI or a mix of both, but this chase scene is pretty early on in the film, and I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, I was wanting to clap right there because it was an amazingly well filmed scene. And I just remember the similar scene in Black Widow, and this mega like tank truck is chasing him. And I was like, that's CGI. Like, trucks don't move like that. Like, that just doesn't, it's not, it looks so dumb. And in this film, I was like, okay, let's go, And so I feel like this film just obliterated those other two recent comparisons.
Honestly, I don't even remember a chase scene in Black Widow. It's been that long since I watched it.
You don't remember them on like that tank chasing them and like, cornering them in the streets and them on like a motorcycle or whatever? It was bad.
I need to watch it again. I saw it once when it came out and that was it.
I'm not trying to make you watch that film again, so my bad.
Too late. It's done. It's in the Blu-ray player.
The only other thought that I would have without getting too specific is I believe one of the villains just didn't need to be there. I think I just like didn't need to be there. I thought there was. Sometimes the henchmen's are too much. I did like some of the henchmen's in this film, but the one of the primary villains I feel like could have completely been not added to this film, and it would have still been the same film. So,
Is it spoilers to say which one?
The main guy villain. Yeah, I feel like.
Oh, okay.
I don't think he was necessary at all. So
okay,
I'll get into that when we get into spoilers. But yeah.
Okay. The other thing that I felt was weird about this movie compared to the other ones, and I think what took me out of it was there were too many jokes for me. Like, I know the films have always had a little bit of humor, but this one felt like they had a lot more, and it just felt forced. Like, I know you've got people from Marvel things in here, so, but it felt a little too Marvel joke heavy, and it's not what I expected the sense of humor to be for this.
We're just not agreeing on a lot of things. I thought the humor was like the right amount. Like, I feel like these films have become so absurd that what separates them from Fast X is, one, they're actually doing most of the stunts, and two, like the jokes are like funny. Like, I feel like if they tried to be more serious, it wouldn't come off as Bond serious. It would come off as Dom and Fast X, like mopey serious.
Yeah. The one example I'll give is from the chase scene where the car flips and they end up in different seats, and They just pause and look at each other. And like, it took me out of it. It's like, okay, so physically, how did that happen? Like, I want to go back and watch it in slow motion and see if they actually did the math to get to get it to work that way. Because I was like, oh, that's funny. But it was like, wait, how? Like, what? Huh?
I had people cracking up in the theater, and I was right along with them. I thought it was a fun ride to say the least.
My audience was not very enthusiastic. They were very much like just got out of the senior special dinner at the diner. Okay. It was that, and then like the one 5-year-old for some reason. So my crowd wasn't super energetic, but it was a crowd, so I'll take it.
Yeah. Well, you want to get into spoilers?
Let's do it.
Oh, do you want to do the ranking first, since we totally forgot on the last?
Yeah. I'm gonna give it a brilliant butt.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I would give it a solid brilliant.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a brilliant, but like just a little but.
Okay.
So, yeah, the pacing for me, like that was the biggest thing. And it didn't help that my stomach was being weird, and I had to go to the bathroom. Like, it's like usually I'll push through, but it was. I'll tell you where I went when we get into spoilers. So,
okay. Well, I just wanted to say this started off different than any other Mission Impossible film that I can remember, because it starts off in this. Is it a Russian sub? I think it's a Russian sub, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is. I mean, it was just definitely, it was a different vibe, and it shows that this Russian sub has a cloaking technology, like not cloaking, but like radar cloaking tech, and that it's been using this AI to kind of like help them stay cloaked and help them navigate certain waters, and they've come super close to all of these other nations' boats without being detected, and they're now basically the most dangerous ship in the water because of this tech. Yeah. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. This was definitely not something that was they announced what the real villain is really early in the film, but they kept it out of the trailers, which I feel is pretty interesting. But they do this whole, unless I just haven't seen the most recent trailers, but they do this whole thing where there's another ship in the water and it fires on them. And so they fire back, and then that ship is not real. It's a radar projection thing. And then they end up dying by their own hand. And it's revealed that an AI that's the most dangerous AI, ChatGPT, in the world, is the one that sunk the ship and is now loose on the world.
You know, the one thing that I do love about this film is it comes out the week that the Screen Actors Guild goes on strike to prevent AI stuff. And what's the big bad in the new Mission Impossible movie? AI.
Right? Yeah.
The irony is not lost on me. So
yeah, and we're gonna circle around to that sub thing later, but that's how it starts. And then it goes into, once again, a scenario in which Tom Cruise and his team is being disavowed. I swear it is like a joke now. Like the government just fucking hates them, pretty much. But it does. The thing that they added in this film that they've never talked about before is that they were all criminals before. Whether or not they were falsely accused or set up, and we get this weird, like, super quick backstory between Ethan Hunt and this new guy. I didn't really care for that, but I did like the idea that they were all criminals, and this was you can either do this is why it's, if you choose to accept. And it's never been if you don't choose to accept, well, you're going back to prison, or something like that. So
Yeah.
I liked that little addition to the lore.
I wonder if that was something from the TV show.
Could have been.
But I don't have the desire to go back and watch a show from the 60s or the 80s. So,
and there's a lot of bringing back. The Kittredge comes back from the first film, and then they bring in another guy. He wasn't from an original film, but he's who am I thinking of? He's
Cary Elwes.
Yeah, he's in this, and he's not in a previous film, but he's like another person in the government, which was an interesting bring in. I just like how they add to the lore. Like, one of my favorite things on Fallout was bringing in this White Widow chick, and she is the daughter of Max from the first film, and I always liked that. Like, there's a lot of people that don't realize that connection. They say it super quick, but she is the daughter of Max in the first film, and then they bring that up again in Dead Reckoning. So I like that.
Yeah, I thought there was a connection there. Okay, so that's the connection to the first film. She's John Voight's daughter.
No. Max is the woman that is trying to buy the knock list in the first film. The one that he goes and meets with. That's Max.
Okay.
She was trying to get the knock list from Voight and all them.
Got it. Okay.
And then Kittredge kind of cut a deal with her at the end, hence why the new version, her daughter, has this relationship with Kittredge and the government and is able to get out of certain things.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense.
But yeah, this villain.
Yeah, what didn't you like about Gabriel? Because I'm intrigued by this.
So the ultimate bad guy in the film is this AI, right? And it's this it's this AI, and it's gonna do some things, and it's using people to get the key to then I don't know, put the power in somebody's hands. So Gabriel is kind of this fanatic. And I guess it would have been better if it was just the fanatic of the entity, but them forcing this whole, I've been the villain since before the Mission Impossibles even existed, and I have this relationship with Ethan that we've never heard about. I just hate it when, like, 6, 7, 8 films into a franchise, you suddenly get this big backstory, it rings the same to me as, oh, Dom has a brother and his name is John Cena. It just, like, don't force this shit. It just didn't feel. And then the whole, like, all the women in your life die, and I'm gonna make sure that continues happening. And he's a great actor. I just don't think we needed the angle. And if it's an AI entity, why not just have henchmen? Like, why does it have to be another bad guy villain,
What I appreciated about Gabriel as a villain was he addressed the thing that bothered me throughout all of these films. Like, in each film, Tom Cruise has that woman love interest or a partner that is in that film and then goes away with no explanation.
Well, they held on to his wife for a few films before Rebecca Ferguson stepped in.
They did, but I think the women from 2 and 3 I enjoy, or Ghost Protocol I enjoyed, and, like, they're just never mentioned again.
Maggie Q, yeah,
Maggie Q.
Was there another woman in Ghost Protocol?
Paula Patton, I think, was her name.
Oh, yeah. Well, those weren't love interests, though. Those were just coworkers.
Yeah, well, and what I do like about, like, even though they're, like, he addresses the women in his life, but also, like, why he's so adamant about his team. Like, like, Ethan even says it, like, I will put the safety of my team first before the mission. And I appreciated that too, because that's something that he's never actually said out loud before, but we all knew it because you watch the films. That's what he does.
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. Like, the Force backstory isn't as big of a deal for me. Like, I like that there's a personal connection there and, like, a ghost from his past. It worked for me, like, a little bit more than I guess it did for you.
He's a good actor, and so at least when he was on screen, I enjoyed his back and forths. I just didn't care for the backstory, but I did love Palm Clementeff. Is that how you say her name? As his henchman, she's so awesome, and just the more I can see her on screen in different roles, I just love her, and I thought she was a force in this film.
Did she actually die at the end, or was there hope that she might come back? Because the agent comes in and is like, "Stay with me." Like,
agent said she has a pulse, so possibly.
Yeah. I would love to see more of her. I thought she was great in this, because it's something different than what you see of her in Guardians, where she's playing this quirky, out of their element character with Mantis. I will say the villains that were in this that I could have done without were Briggs and Degas.
See, I liked them as well. First of all, anytime that what's his name is in a movie, what's his face? Shea Wiggum that plays Briggs. I've loved him in all of his roles, whether it's like the brother that keeps getting in the way on Boardwalk Empire or something like this. If he's in the movie, I'm gonna appreciate him more. And I liked that he was like not really a bad guy, just a persistent, like he was playing for the good guys. He was just super confident. They kept on alleging that he has some like personal reason why he's going after. But they never really got to that point. But
it's part one. What I would have appreciated more is if instead of like when they're in Venice at that giant party, instead of them being outside of the party, like, hey, we're gonna go in there. If they just showed up there, like I don't need to see them just like look at the party and think, okay, we need to go there. Like if they just show up and are a nuisance. They're just around the corner every time Ethan walks around a corner. Like that would have worked better for me. But instead we gotta we should go in there. Let's go there. Follow me. We're going there.
Well, it's a part one. They got to stretch out that runtime a little bit. Also, Briggs gets in that, like later in that scene, he gets the one F-bomb of the film, even though it's silent, but you can see it on his face. And I like that he's just constantly chasing Ethan, and even if they think, oh yeah, we might have the leg up on him. Nope, Ethan's just still running a block away from him. So I thought it was hilarious.
There's a lot of silent running in this. Like I know Tom Cruise gets a lot of flack for running, but there's a lot of just running to music, and dramatic music, not even like action heavy musical themes. It's just like emotional stuff. Like,
yeah, he's got to get his cardio in, man.
He does. But I think that was part of the pace. Like it just like, okay, he's running. I get it.
Well, and that's another reason why I had issues with the Gabriel character, because I liked that Vanessa Kirby was back in this as the White Widow character, and that she was brokering the deal and whatnot, and you know, Ethan was trying to reason with her and her stubborn ass brother to be like, just don't do this. Like, it's worse than you think. Don't make a deal with him. And then Gabriel's up here like prophesizing, like, before it's done, you know, I'm going to have the key in my hand tomorrow, and one of your women are going to die tonight. And I was like, why couldn't we have just stuck with the key thing? Like, why did we have to have this forced, like, the women in his life die? You know, like, I mean, I love Rebecca Ferguson. She probably has other projects to do, like that Silo show that she just came out with. Just because Haley Atwell's in the movie doesn't mean we have to kill the previous one, you know, in the movie. So while I did like the fight scene, I was like, okay, but this isn't necessary. We could have cut out this whole scene and it not have been a crazy part of the film. But what I did like about that scene was, I'm sure there are people that look at Palm, what's her name, and just say, she's so tiny, she's not formidable, you know, are we really supposed to believe her going up against Tom Cruise or whatever? But in that small, tiny ass alleyway where there's not really any space to move, and you've got one guy who just keeps on, like, he can't even get over the gate, and then Palm just keeps on coming after him with a a pipe. Like that was an intense fight scene, and I could feel like, oh, like this sucks for Ethan, and that would suck for anybody.
Yeah.
So I like that fight.
Yeah, I like that fight too. There was something in the interviews that I saw before the film that kind of took me out of it during the whole Venice scene. Like somebody sat down with Haley Atwell and they talked about her costume in that scene, and they were like, "You're really giving off David Bowie vibes." She's like, "Right, Jared from Labyrinth." Like that's what I was going for. And I was like, "Yep, I see it. Like it definitely looks like you look like the Goblin King." And they did the whole you remind me of the Babe.
Yeah,
it's a fun video. I'll have to find it and send it to you.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see it.
I liked Grace. Like I was hesitant to.
Me too. I did too.
But I really enjoyed her. I think it was a good foil between her and Ethan, where she's, you think she's going along with it. Yeah, nope. I'm going to leave you here in this tiny car as a train comes.
Yeah. I liked the airport scene. I thought that was fun. And I also